Thank you for joining me on the show today. This is the Now Talks, a collection of inspiring personal stories and leadership lessons from some of the world's most iconic leaders. It is the weekly podcast for women in leadership, brought to you by Nations of Women. My name is Dr. Tina Allton, and I'm your host for today and the coming weeks. Your life's journey, the lessons, the wisdom. I think so many women often need. I certainly know that I've craved for it many, many times, but hasn't really had the opportunity to have it as often as I had needed it in my life. So I'm just so privileged to spend this time with you today. And hopefully, not just myself, but many other women around the world will be able to, take some of the wisdom that you have acquired as you have been doing your own life, but also as a woman, as a mom, as a leader, that we can find hope, especially in our world these days. And also find, I think, nuggets that we can apply, into our lives to be able to see the results that, it's supposed to bring. So just to kick us off, I'm here with my very good friend, my sister, my confidant, so many, things in between, Lisette Malmberg, all the way in Aruba. Suffering so much. The beach, the sun, it's incredible suffering. If you ever feel like you need to, you haven't suffered enough in life, come to Aruba. And Lisette is an incredible, global leader. You've had the opportunity to do work cross-culturally, different, countries, even leading teams from different backgrounds. So I think we would have the opportunity to add your bio to this, but really the purpose of our time today is as we're thinking about the summit in South Africa, but even more so longer term beyond the summit. I feel that it really is the time for us as women to arise and come into the light of our original design. But the question that I've been pondering myself in my heart, and with my team and those around me, is how do we as women know when it is the time? How do we know when it is the time? So part of our conversation is going to try to unpack how do we get to come into that awareness of, okay, it's time for me to arise. The focus of our time together in South Africa is accelerating women's leadership for greater socioeconomic development. I think there's research to show whether it's peace talk agreements or, war or any form of negotiation, even just in business and marketing, when women are present at the table, the results look different. Right. And so I think we do have a role to play in being able to accelerate the leadership of women. I also feel that part of the reason why we're not seeing a lot of women at the table comes down to confidence, either confidence in ourselves, confidence in our capacity, capability. And sometimes that lack of confidence actually comes from, something in our head, or sometimes things we were told when we were kids. So again, we will try to unpack what is it that, stifles the confidence of women, or steals the confidence, or stalls, however we want to look at that. And there are 7 key areas that we are focusing on as we're thinking about how can we specifically accelerate the leadership of women. One is coming into the understanding of the power of who we are. Then, of course, the power of our presence, the power of our dream. There's so many dreams that I believe are in the hearts of many women, but it's dying. And so, what is the reason behind that? Why are the dreams not coming to be? We'd also think about the power of our words, that life and death lies in our tongue, but we often use our own words and our voice to even, I believe, sometimes curse ourselves. And particularly, I remember growing up in Africa where I don't think our moms or our dads really intend to, curse us or, give us psychological abuse, but I think it's just a cultural thing. If you did something silly, oh, you're so stupid, you're so, and those can sometimes become imprinted in our mind. That in itself can also, I believe, steal confidence. So we would look at that. And then the power of connection, that we all are a key to somebody else's breakthrough. We're all a product of somebody's connection. But often I find women don't like to open doors for other people access because somebody betrayed them, cut my heels, blah, 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 But again, I think that mindset really needs to shift. And so our heart in this time together is really to model for the women in the world to see what it looks like when women no longer walk in fear of, if I open the door, create access for somebody else. So, and perhaps maybe some nuggets on how actually do we nurture relationships that are entrusted to us? How do we steward? I think is the good stewarding relationships that, come to us. And then the power of community, again, because no one person's an island, you can't really get to your destiny by yourself. You need others. But how do you go that journey with others? How do we pull that veil down so that we can be real and actually receive what it is that is designed for us to receive within that community once that veil is torn? So I know I've said a lot, but I wanted to lay a really great, foundation to bring to our readers and our listeners a deeper understanding of not just the conversation for here, but really for the purpose, which is arise and shine, for your light has come. So with that said, I want to roll back to you, Lisette, and maybe just share a little bit about your life journey with our ladies.
Well, first and foremost, Tina, it's a joy to spend this time with you. It's been absolutely wonderful. I love you so dearly, and I am so very proud to call you my sis. And to all those that are listening or that will be reading, just blessings out to you. As Tina has shared, my name is Lisette Malmberg. I am from the island of Aruba. And for those of you that may not know, Aruba is in the southern tip of the Caribbean, very close to South America. So about 15 miles off the coast of Venezuela and a little bit further away from Colombia. So we are actually the furthest south in the Caribbean. Aruba, just for your context, is part of the Dutch kingdom. So we form if you will, part of the Dutch kingdom of nations, and there are 6 islands in the Caribbean that are all Dutch as far as our background is concerned. So we speak 4 languages on the island. We speak Dutch as our official and legal language. We speak Papiamento, which is a mixture of Portuguese, Spanish, English, Dutch, African, and Indian. Beautiful language. We speak Spanish fluently, and we speak English. And so we're quite blessed because we have, on a very small island, we have over 150 nationalities that are living here. So Aruba is quite cosmopolitan as an island, but also quite multicultural and just diverse in our ethnicity. And so that provides a certain context for my background, if you will. I left home when I was very young. I left when I was 17 and went to university in America, and married quite young. Married at 20, barely graduate from university, but that did not work out. And a piece of advice to all of you: when your parents or those closest to you actually are saying, with a heart of love towards you, of course, and you need to discern that properly. But that really is not the partner for you. I was quite stubborn in those days, and this is the love, and this is it, and I don't care what my parents or anybody else says, but that's it. And that was, of course, a major mistake. So by 23, I was divorced, and quite heartbroken. And that heartbrokenness sent me on a very wild life. And so I came back home to Aruba. I lived in the States after my graduation and for the 3 years during my early marriage. And I came back home to work in our family company and help grow that company together with my brother and my father. And so, from that business perspective, where in the tourism business, in many, many branches of it, and employ close to 400 people and associates, and have businesses in quite a unique blend of services. Actually, for the entire Caribbean, our company is quite unique in that perspective. But I came back home heartbroken and engaged in a very permissive and very wild lifestyle until at the age of 28, I got cervical cancer. And basically, that was a wake up call for me. And so, thank God, it was treatable and I was able to recover within a period of time. But it changed my lifestyle. So, my lifestyle became much more focused on health and just taking care of myself. And I began a journey of seeking, not really knowing God. I did not come from a religious background or a Christian background. And my parents were people of high virtue and values and integrity, but did not know the Lord. And so I started a journey of just seeking. At the age of 32, I was actually surprised with a pregnancy with someone that I had met in business relationship at a time when our company was facing almost bankruptcy, and that ended up with my having my daughter as a single mom. I knew the relationship had no future, but I didn't believe that I had reason not to have her. I didn't believe, even at that time, not knowing God, I didn't really believe that abortion was the answer for me. And so I chose to have her. And that was one of the greatest blessings of my life. And when my daughter was 2 years old, I ended up in another relationship and my heart was broken again. This time it was the third time because I had had another relationship in the meantime, and that also did not work out. So thoroughly feeling as a woman, questioning my own, lovability, my own ability to have or hold a man, questioning my desirability. And women oftentimes, when relationships do not work out for a myriad of reasons, oftentimes blame ourselves. There is a saying that I heard recently, and it says, "In the absence of love and belonging, there is suffering." And I believe that is true for us as human beings in general. And so when my daughter was 2, I met this person and was in a relationship, and that really became, at that time, the love of my life. And after 6 months, I was devastated again. And so that really led me to come to a place of surrender. I realized this time, even though I'm quite strong-willed and quite resilient, this time I didn't have the inner strength to be able to, if you will, arise or heal myself from this. I was a single mom. I could take care of my daughter physically, but I really could not be there for her during this time emotionally. And one night at midnight, at an utter time of despair, I lifted up my hands in the shower and I said, if there is a God, come into my life and change me, heal me, and I will serve you for the rest of my days. Well, little did I know that he was waiting for that invitation. And the Lord came into my life. And actually, I had suffered from insomnia for about 2 decades, so a long period of time. And that night, I slept for the first time in a long time. The next day, a friend of mine came to my home and invited me to go to church. And we went to an Assemblies of God church. And there I formally accepted the Lord. But I believe the Lord was already in me and actually unveiled himself once I invited him in. And so began a season in my life of really seeking who I was, at the essence of my being, at the origin of my being, not finding my significance or meaning either in my accomplishments, which by then I'd had a career, say in tourism. We had built our company into actually a myriad of businesses, and the company was growing, even though struggling financially because of a closed financial market. And so with those challenges, I just began seeking who I was. And that brought me on a journey of about 7 years of learning spiritual practices, if you will, not to call them disciplines, but practices. Very early on in my spiritual walk, I just learned to cleave to Jesus, just to cleave to him as by necessity. The Lord had taken me through a process where my family thought I had joined a cult they were not familiar with, either charismatic Christianity or anything like that. And so they were quite fearful because of the radicalness, if you will, of my conversion. It could be seen, quite evidently in my life. And so that also isolated me, if you will, from my family. And then a further isolation came from the friends that I had. And I believe that was purposed by God so that I could really fix my eyes upon him as the author and the finisher of my faith. And so a journey and a process began. One of the things I noticed in my early conversion was that there was almost a Christian subculture. And so people didn't, in the world in which I moved, in boardrooms where I was oftentimes the only woman, in places of authority where decisions were made that shaped the direction of the nation, there were no Christians that I knew of. There were no people that understood that as well was a mission field.
Right.
That as well was a place of service. That any place really is a place of service and contribution. Whether it is that you have a passion for the arts, or you have a passion for business, or you have a passion for education, either formal or informal, or you have a passion for media and communications, or you have a passion for just family and social services, or government, or any of these areas are bona fide, legitimate places where we can serve others for their good, and where we can invest, if you will, the unique character, the unique personality, the unique gifts and talents that we've been given, and as we continue to develop them, to serve our community and to contribute to making this a better world in whatever way that can be. That doesn't always need to be big or broad. Sometimes it's just the little things, that we do with intentionality to serve and to love. And so that is just a little bit of my background. I know what it is as a business person to be in a position where the bank basically controls all of your assets, including our shares in the company, were collateralized. We were paying 13% interest per year on our loans, which was strangling the company and the ability to have the cash flow needed to continue to grow the company. And then in a pretty short period of time, we needed to grow the company because the hotel sector in Aruba was exploding, expanding, and so we needed to have additional access to capital, which put us in a very vulnerable position as we were waiting for these hotels to be constructed. But yes, we needed to make sure that our company was well positioned, and so that was a challenging time. It's a time of having the bank say every month we're not going to pay your employees, and really needed to stand in faith, believing, trusting that God was going to make a way of supply. And time again, He did. And so maybe in specific answer, because there may be people on this call that may not necessarily be people of faith or Christian faith. And so within that context is the sense that we need faith in everything that we do. Mm-hmm. There is such a thing as natural faith. Yeah. So when you turn on the light switch, you have faith that the light's going to go on. Yeah. That is faith of sorts. Yeah. It's just this belief, this inner belief of that things will turn out for good, that things that happen are meant for our good, even when the circumstance doesn't seem to be that way. But there's actually a development that's happening, a growth that's happening, an unveiling that's happening on the inside of us throughout any circumstance in life. Mm-hmm. That's why I say, and I've come to believe that there really is no such thing as failure. Mm-hmm. Failure informs us of a potential area of growth. Failure can inform us of a blind spot that we personally may hold. Failure can inform us that that is not the pathway to take. Excuse me, and that they may be a different path that is opening up before us, that if we do not stumble, if you will, in a particular area, that we will not see, we will not discover. And so having that kind of mindset, having that kind of inner resilience and confidence that whatever happens in our lives will ultimately turn out for our good. Yeah. Now, this is not easy to do. Tina, you talked about something that is our confidence in ourselves. Yeah. Women oftentimes not fully showing up, not fully using their voice, because we're either afraid of rejection, we're afraid of failure, we're afraid of not having what it takes, etc. And when you ask the question, which is an excellent question, why is that? Yeah. I have come to believe, after just serving in multiple areas, that the key thing is oftentimes shame. Mm. And shame is different than guilt. Yeah. Guilt says you have done something wrong. Shame says you are wrong. Yeah. You are a mistake. You are a failure. And that is a significant difference. So how does shame come in? Shame can actually come in when we're still in our mother's womb because of circumstances of trauma, or circumstances of rejection, or circumstances of abandonment that are even happening to our moms. Yeah. And here we are in the womb, and we are receiving, if you will, those signals, even as an embryo, as a child that's growing up in her mother's womb. And then circumstances in life oftentimes can try to inform us with a lie. I believe there's only one lie. And that one lie is usually crafted in such a way through circumstances and situations in our life that tell us that we are not. You are not.
Yeah.
You are not good. You are not sufficient. You are not beautiful. You are not, you don't have what it takes. It's all the things that say, I am not. And oftentimes, those are things that tell us a lie about God or about a good universe, whatever language you want to use. And thus they mirror to us that we then are, or we question our own self-worth. We question our own identity. The more traumatic circumstances are in our early childhood or our years of growing up, the more this shame-based identity is formed. It causes us to be fearful. It causes us to be timid. It causes us to not take risks in life because we do not feel that we are sufficient.
Yeah.
And so there's constantly this mindset that informs us a lie that replicates or repeats a lie to us, and that begins to create circumstances in our life.
Yeah,
that happened to me. For some reason, something slipped in my early childhood. While I had wonderful parents and a wonderful home, but something slipped in early childhood. It could be generational. I think in my case it was generational rejection, generational abandonment. And generational fear from my mother's side that said, you're not enough. So in me, it produced an effect of striving, an effect of a performance-based identity. So I needed to perform. I was always exerting myself to go the extra mile to make sure, basically a almost enslaving work ethic to overcome this feeling of not being enough, so constantly reading, equipping myself, etc., which in essence is good. But when the intent or the motivation is fear, then it becomes striving, then it becomes exhausting, then it becomes continuously trying to prove or validate my self-worth. And so I think that plays a big role for humanity in general, but for women in particular. And because women are so relational, because women are so meant to have this empathic and sensitivity towards others, we're just wired that way. It can limit us in our relationships. And so I think that's one of the big reasons,
Yeah, this is so good. I think you've really hit the nail in terms of, that confidence, because I think it just underlines and underpins so many dreams that are lost. So many opportunities that are lost. I know certainly when I was a lot younger, I'm only 25, but again, based on circumstances growing up and, constantly needing to have my father's approval of me, that, I found myself in that pattern, and it got to a point I thought, no, I'm tired.
Right.
I really am tired. It doesn't matter whether he likes it, doesn't like it. And also, I think I find that for most women, it really sometimes has to come to like a screeching halt,
right,
to have that realization. I mean, why in your opinion, as a mature woman, would you say to women, don't wait till you have a screeching halt?
I think that is. Let me think that through, because that isn't always possible.
Yeah.
Sometimes those screeching halts are by design.
Yeah.
And they are meant for our good. Because maybe to give an example that's very specific, as I went through my marriage failing, and then this very promiscuous lifestyle, and then the cancer, and then basically coming into two more relationships where I quote unquote fell in love, and those failed. It begins to cause you to question your own worth or your desirability of whatever, and that can be different in different cases. It may be different when you're going through significant lack or poverty or different kinds of circumstances. I'm just using this one. But those actually relationship failures began to position me to question life, to question the meaning of life. They were necessary for my awakening. Do you understand? So oftentimes we see that screeching halt as something that is negative, but when we see the universe and we see God or whoever we see as the supreme being as good, then we begin to understand that everything really is designed for our good. Then it's not about the fact that we come to a screeching halt. Rather, it is, can we recognize the opportunity, and how will we respond? Will we respond in a way where we focus on the failure, where we say, well, okay, then truly I'm no good, or we come in agreement with the lie, or will we find and begin to seek answers that are beyond ourselves? And I believe that's really what any circumstance in life that is painful, because pain informs us that, not in a sense that something is missing, but I look at it that something is wanting to be unveiled, that something deeper within us is wanting to be awakened, is wanting to take us, if you will, to a next level in our growth, in our maturing, in our becoming. And so I think it's important. How do I believe that we can aid so that we don't need a traumatic event, or we don't need a screeching halt, if you will, but we're actually informed by life. And in my experience, it's been curiosity. It's been the willingness to ponder, to ask questions, to not become so, there is a possibility to be over-identified with a particular group. It's possible to be over-identified with either a particular social class, or either a particular form of thinking, or a group, whether that is a religious group or whatever. I believe there's a difference between belonging and fitting in. True belonging always has to do with you showing up as your authentic self. Fitting in is you're trying to become something so that others will accept you. And so fitting in is always, or usually, a betrayal of who you truly are. And so when I truly belong somewhere and I am truly loved, I don't need to change myself. I don't need to betray myself to be there, to be in that space, to be in that group, to be a part of that community. But when I'm trying to fit in, oftentimes I do betray who I really am, because I am trying to either appease, or and that can never be true belonging. And so I think for us, it's really important. How do we interpret signals in life? Are we willing to pause in life? Are we willing to take time to reflect? Any leader that does not have in their life the ability to sit still, the practice of stillness
Yeah.
as a regular discipline in life, we will not then have the ability to actually see things, to deeply reflect, to ponder, to ask ourselves questions, or ask questions of circumstances, or ask questions of the universe, or ask questions of significant others in our life. You know, and that means that we will always be defined by what others think, by others people's opinion, by what a very material world tells us about who we are. So
no, thank you for that. I think you've already answered the second part of the question, in terms of the screeching halt, because I've also found that on the other side of the coin that, that is the very thing that overcomes the woman, because they're stuck in why me, why this, and this is not fair, and all of those. But you've already alluded to, if we flip the coin, that actually those are moments that you can either get stuck in that, or you can recognize, okay, there's an opportunity here. There is something inside of me that is wanting to awaken, wanting to arise, wanting to become.
Right.
And as we have that mindset, that in itself I see plays out as strength. That in itself is a recipe for confidence, right? And resilience.
So as women, many times when we are hurt, when we feel rejected, when we feel either that we've made a mistake or failed in some way, then there's a tendency in us, if we will come in agreement, if we will align with the I am not lie, then we will either rehearse the pain. So we will constantly be thinking about it. We will become almost obsessed with it. We will repeat it and rehearse it in our mind. We will replay the scenario continuously. We may nurse it. So we're then actually feeding it with self-talk. I can't even believe they did that to me, or how could they, and then we begin to feed. When we nurse it, we begin to feed on resentment, bitterness, even hatred, etc. We can curse it. So we're basically saying, okay, I curse the person, or I curse the situation, or whatever the case may be, or we can choose to arise from it, and not to agree with the I am not lie, which is the shame-based identity, and to say, no, I have inherent worth. The fact that I exist, the fact that I breathe, the fact that I am here says something about who I am.
Yes.
It says something about what was intended in my being, what was intended for my significance, what was intended for me to contribute. There is no one on this earth who is here by accident. We are all here by unique design and with a unique purpose. And that purpose is for good. And we have already been wired, we have already been shaped, we have already been formed with that purpose in mind. And so it then does not become an issue only of development, even though development is important. It rather becomes an issue of discovery.
Yes.
And situations, relationships, and all these things help us on our life journey of discovering. Discovering who I am, discovering how I respond in a unique way to situations, discovering how there is more in me than meets the eye. And when I am willing to respond, when I will face life's challenges with that kind of a mindset, with that kind of a resilience, with a refusal to come in agreement with what life is trying to present to me on the side of I am not, and I am saying I am.
Yes. This is so good. Ladies, I do hope that, we're taking some real nuggets here because I definitely am. And I think, you've answered, I'm seeing like 4 or 5 questions, only one here that I think ultimately our victory is going to come from the moment we recognize what life is, throwing at us and refusing to come into agreement with it. I am not. That's for me, I think that seals the deal. Mm-hmm. The moment we recognize, okay, I am in something, this doesn't feel comfortable, then we have to find the other side of the what is this I am not that's coming at me.
Right. And you know what, Tina, for women oftentimes that is filtered through our emotions.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because we are highly sensitive, nurturing.
Yeah.
We're wired for nurturing. We're wired for relationship. We're wired for connection.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, and that is at a much higher rate, if you will, of sensitivity, even than men oftentimes. And it's not that men don't have that sense, but women are particularly outfitted, are particularly wired to connect to others.
Yeah.
And because of that, also we can filter things through our emotion.
Yeah.
And what I want to point out with what you were saying is that our emotions are not necessarily the true messengers, or the truth that we want to come in agreement with. Because our emotions may inform us based on an I am not messaging. And so when we then, in our mind, have the ability to say, no, I am. I am good. I am enough. I am able. I have been given the capacity. And that actually begins to inform our emotional state.
Yes.
And having the ability and developing the ability to shift our emotions in a heartbeat. In the journey of life and the journey of maturity and even the journey of spirituality, that is quicker. So if it used to take me a week to get over a situation of feeling rejected or feeling angry or resentful or whatever, it now takes me 10 minutes.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
And it's basically because I am not coming in agreement when the messaging is negative. In any way, I know that it's not coming from a source that I need to agree with. Because it's coming from the source that wants to affirm that I am not. And my mind says, no, wait a minute, I make a choice. I am.
This is so good. It leads us right into the connection piece in terms of how do we often even connect. Why do we hesitate in connection? And you've laid the foundation so beautifully. So I'd like to be mindful of time. I'd like you to share with us maybe 2 or 3 practical tips that will help any woman as a leader to really be able to steward relationships. I think this is very crucial. We must understand the emotion and the message we're getting when we want to. Sometimes I think even ourselves wanting to move into community, move into relationship, connection, and we kind of like pull ourselves back. But yet that is the very place that is meant for us. So can you give us 2 to 3 practical wisdom or nuggets that would help women as leaders to be good stewards of the relationships that come to them or that are created for them, or relationships that they desire to build. So in relationship building, how can we steward that well?
I think that's an excellent question. I think if I think of 2 to 3 things, one is recognize when you are experiencing shame. Recognize it. Shame comes upon us almost like a warm, coating that kind of, you know what I mean? You feel it on the inside. So recognize that. when there is a shaming event in our life because we made a mistake, because we said something that we should not have, because of whatever circumstance, be quick. Shame cannot bear exposure.
Right.
So rather than withdrawing in yourself
Yeah.
or wallowing in that mistake,
Yeah.
understand that that is actually can be used to your benefit. So one, expose it. At least have one or two people in your life
Yeah.
whom you can confess to and say, this just happened.
Yeah.
This is the way I feel. Okay. So one, recognize that shame.
Yeah.
Two, what is really important in relationships is both empathy, being able to allow ourselves, and women are again particularly wired for this, to feel deeply with others, and to allow that to flow.
Yeah.
And I think third, in terms of connectivity, to allow yourself to be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, really, really discover that every day more. How are you? How am I? How do I show up? And you begin to feel, when am I at my best? When am I functioning and contributing at my highest level?
Yeah.
And make that choice that you're going to show up.
Yeah.
It actually, to a degree, is a choice. That I am going to confess when I'm feeling shamed, or I feel that I've made a mistake or whatever else. I'm going to share that with someone. I'm going to expose it, because the moment I expose it, it loses its power over me. I'm not going to hide away. I'm not going to keep it a secret. Second, I move in the world with an empowered heart that is open to others.
Yeah.
Often as women, we tend to compare.
Yeah.
And we tend to compete. And that's why a question you asked earlier, which is a very good one, why do we not, why women oftentimes don't create platforms or open to others? It's oftentimes because we're comparing, and the thing is, no one can compare to you. And no one can compete with you, because no one is you.
Yeah.
And when you're moving from an I am identity, there is a greater expanding freedom that comes to your life as you understand who you are and who you are not.
Yeah.
Because both are important. Because I have a particular thing that I bring to the table. The more I hone in on that thing that makes me so unique, and at my uniqueness is genius level.
Yes.
That's who you are. Whoever you are that are listening to my voice, listen to me. You are in your uniqueness, a genius. And the more we get to that sweet spot and we show up as that, the more we contribute. The more people will begin to seek us out for that very thing that we are. It's not only what we do out of being, out of the essence of our being. And so that becomes more and more, I don't want to say marketable, but certainly it is more recognizable.
Yeah.
It shows up in a way that adds value to any space that we're in, because we're showing up as that we are. And so that adds value. And I think ultimately, if that's our intention in life, that our intent is to love, to show up as our authentic self, and in that to serve and add value, then I believe you will see this rhythm of a life that begins to create opportunities for us to show up more significantly.
Wow, this is so, I'm like, okay, this is, it's incredibly enriching. So in our final minutes that we have left, I know that you're a woman that walks in purpose. You know exactly your purpose, what you created for, called for. And of course, over time, it's changed, but I think the essence of it remains the same. So what would be your final word for women, really from the perspective of empowering them to arise in their purpose, to shine in their purpose?
I would say, first, I would ask a question, and I would say to you, what do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Not what you have not, but what do you have? What is an ability that you have? Whether it is sewing, singing, making music, cooking, everyone has something to give, something to serve with. Capacity, talent, a gift that we have been given. You don't give yourself the gift necessarily. You discover it and then you develop it and you become intentional. I think rather than trying to be all things to all people, it is more important to find out that thing that I do well and develop that ability, hone it, so I can be the best in class in that area. I think that's really important. And when we discover that thing that we have so uniquely as ourselves, is to understand that makes me a leader. Leadership is not position. Leadership is influence. And influence comes from proximity. It comes from intimacy. It comes from being able to let my gift of being and my gift of doing contribute to others. So that begins to now expand my sphere of influence. Because as others find value in what I have to offer, then that is oftentimes demanded more. Which then create opportunity for us to either monetize the gift or either to find a place of contribution for the gift. Which there is no gift that's given, there is no talent that is given, there is no capacity that is given that is void of purpose.
This is so good. So we have a few, or less than a few, just a couple of minutes left to wrap this up. We have women who are just coming into places of leadership in community, in nations. We have former first ladies, we have former female presidents, we have women from a very wide, range of background. As a woman, as a mom, as a leader, what do you want what would you leave with them that will I want like you think a seed, what seed as a leader in this season of your life, what seed are you willing to plant in the women that are reading this, listening to this?
I would want to not just plant, but rather impart.
Impart, that's the word, yes.
Impart.
Yeah.
A sense of enjoying the present moment, of living in the now. We cannot live in the past because there's no future in it. And so past only serves to enrich us, inform us, and teach us valuable lessons in life. And we cannot live in the future. And even though we must have a vision for our future, we cannot delay our sense of contentment, our sense of I am enough, our sense of satisfaction of life, of gratitude for life, until, and we as women have more of a tendency to do that. So I'll be happy when, I'll be good when, and what I would say and what I would impart to you is the ability, the grace to live in the ever-present now. Now is all you have. Now, make a choice. You are a now woman. So with that, live in the now. Do not forfeit the moment you are in by not either listening or by not enjoying the person that you're with, the conversation that you're able to have, the moment that you're in your life, because you are delaying that gratification. You are delaying that sense of contentment until you have. And so as we learn to be more present in our own lives, more present to ourselves, more present to those that we are with, you will see life unfolding in a beautiful tapestry and in a very organic way. That's what I would contribute.
Thank you. And that said, women. And that's all for this week. You've been listening to Dr. Tina Allton with the Now Talks, the weekly podcast for women in leadership, brought to you by Nations of Women. All that remains is for me to say have a fantastic week, stay safe, and reach out if you need any help now at nationsofwomen.com. Until next time, enjoy the pursuit of your potential, and remember, now is your time.